The numbers printed on that small slip of paper in my hand felt like they held the weight of the entire world. $100 million. Dollars. It was a sum so vast I couldn't properly comprehend it. Instead of spending a single dollar of it, I walked down the street and gave every last cent to a man I'd never met, a man who called the space under an old bridge his home. This wasn't my first time winning such an amount. In a life I lived before this one, I won that very same lottery. Back then, my husband and my closest friend had been ecstatic, their excitement infectious. They pushed me to spend it, to enjoy it immediately. I, wanting to share my good fortune with the people I loved most, listened to them without question. I went straight to a high-end car dealership and picked out a vehicle that shone under the showroom lights. Then, I visited a realtor and purchased a sprawling mansion I'd only ever seen in magazines. I remember pulling into the long, curved driveway of my new home in my new car, a feeling of surreal joy washing over me. That feeling was short-lived. The dealership owner and the realtor arrived at my door almost as soon as I had. Their faces were grim, their voices aggressive as they demanded their payment. I was confused because I had already paid them in full. The confusion turned to ice-cold dread when they opened the heavy duffel bags I'd given them. They showed me the contents, and I realized with a sickening lurch that every single bill was hell money, the kind of currency burned for the dead. I tried to stammer out an explanation, to say there had to be a mistake, but that's when my husband, Mark, and my best friend, Sarah, stepped forward. "Anna," they said, their voices laced with a disappointment that felt rehearsed, "how could you possibly use spirit money to pay for things? We know you've been poor for a long time, but you can't just scam people with fake money like this." My husband immediately asked for a divorce. My best friend declared she could no longer be associated with someone as dishonest as me. The business owners, enraged and feeling cheated, didn't wait for an explanation. They stabbed me right there on my new marble floor. Even as my life faded away, the question haunted me. Why had all my money turned into fake bills intended for the afterlife? Then I opened my eyes. I was back in my old apartment on the very day I won the lottery. "Honey, you need to go cash that ticket." Mark's voice broke through the fog in my mind. "After they take out taxes, it will be $80 million. We can finally buy a new car and a much bigger house." His words echoed in my ears, a chilling reminder of the past. For a long moment, I was completely dazed, the memories of my previous life crashing down on me with the force of a tidal wave. I understood then that I had been given a second chance, reborn into this moment. Seeing me just standing there, lost in thought, my husband gave my shoulder an impatient nudge. "What are you waiting for, Anna? Go and cash it in. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity." A deep shiver traced its way down my spine. I looked at his familiar face, a face I had once loved, and my mouth opened and closed without a sound as the traumatic memories flooded my mind. In the end, I said nothing at all. As he continued to rush me, I simply threw on a coat and walked out of the house. On the walk to the Lottery Commission's office, a profound ache settled in my heart. It wasn't about the $20 million I would have to pay in taxes. It was the cold, hard realization that the two people I trusted most in the world, my husband and my best friend, had orchestrated a plot against me. In my previous life, they had been the ones pushing me to spend the money as quickly as possible. "Buy a car, buy a house, buy anything," they had urged. "Just don't let it sit in a bank account. Otherwise, you'll have long-lost relatives crawling out of the woodwork begging for handouts." I remembered thinking about all the true stories of families being torn apart by sudden wealth, and their advice had seemed logical at the time. So I had taken their guidance to heart, visiting a realtor and a car dealership to place orders for a house and a car. I drove home in my brand new luxury vehicle, the deed to a beautiful mansion in my hands, feeling like I was on top of the world. But when I arrived, Mark and Sarah were nowhere to be found. Instead, a crowd of angry people had gathered at my front door, all of them demanding money. They had brought several large men with them, and they were all shouting that I had taken their goods without paying, that I had used fake hell money to deceive them. They demanded not only the full payment, but also compensation for their emotional distress. I was completely stunned. I had clearly handed over stacks of real cash. How could they possibly claim it was fake? It was then that the real estate agent and the manager from the car dealership brought forward two large duffel bags. They unzipped them, and inside was nothing but stacks of bills from the bank of heaven and hell. There wasn't a single real dollar to be found. I tried to argue to ask if they had made some kind of mistake, but then my husband and my best friend, who had been conspicuously absent, suddenly appeared from the crowd. They immediately began pointing their fingers at me, their faces masks of condemnation. "Anna, you are such a disappointment. I can't believe I was ever friends with you," my best friend had shouted. My husband had demanded a divorce on the spot, claiming he couldn't bear the public humiliation. My final fading memory was of the furious business owners lunging at me, stabbing me over and over again. Honestly, now in this new life, I didn't even want to cash the ticket. I was terrified of the trouble it would inevitably bring. But then a thought occurred to me. You can try to hide, but a determined hunter will always find their prey. Even if I managed to avoid this specific trap, they would just create another one for me down the line. With that grim realization, I walked directly into the lottery office and cashed my ticket. The moment the money was officially mine, my husband's call came through, exactly as I expected. "Anna, did you get the money? That's great. Now hurry up and go buy the car and the house. The dealership manager and the realtor are waiting for you to make the final payment." Hearing his urgent, excited voice sent a chill through me. He sounded thrilled, but after what I had experienced, it felt like he was simply eager for me to die. I still held onto a tiny, flickering sliver of hope. I decided to test him over the phone. "Honey, do we really need to buy a new car and a house right away? Why don't we just put the money into a savings account and live comfortably off the interest each year?" As I anticipated, his furious roar erupted through the speaker a second later. "Anna, what in the world are you talking about? We had a plan before you even left the house. 100 million, which is 80 million after taxes. 20 million for a Rolls Royce and 60 million for a mansion. I've already spoken with them and now you're telling me you've changed your mind?" I tried to reason with him calmly. "Mark, we don't really need those things. Our current car is only worth about $20,000 and our house is over 1,000 square feet. It's more than enough space for the two of us." "I don't care." He cut me off impatiently. "Anna, you listen to me. If you don't come back with the deed to that house and the keys to that car, then don't even bother coming back at all. There won't be a place for you in this family anymore." Hearing the undisguised threat in his voice, my heart sank into my stomach. Any lingering hope I had for him, for us, was completely extinguished. After Mark hung up on me, my best friend Sarah's call came in right on cue. Her very first words were an attempt to persuade me to buy the house and car just to calm Mark down. "Anna, how could you just go back on your word like that? You know how much a man's pride is tied to the house he lives in and the car he drives? You have the money now, so why can't you just grant your husband this one simple wish?" "Anna, you're not seeing someone else, are you? Why else would you suddenly be so unwilling to spend money on Mark? You can't be cheating on him. If you are, as your best friend, I'll be the first person to look down on you. Hurry up and make that final payment. They always say that men get corrupted by money, but it looks like you're the one who's changing for the worse." Sarah's nagging voice droned on, a calculated mix of threats and persuasion designed to push me into making the payment. Feeling their relentless, ugly desperation to harm me a second time, the last shred of hope and warmth I had for my husband and my best friend completely vanished. Before Sarah could finish her speech, I hung up the phone and set my device to Do Not Disturb. Walking down the street, I wondered how I could possibly spend this money without falling into another one of their traps. Suddenly, my eyes landed on a beggar lying on the pavement, absent-mindedly picking at his feet. An idea sparked in my mind. Taking out my phone to record a video, I walked over and stuffed the $80 million check directly into the beggar's hand. I kept the video recording until I had walked all the way to the end of the street, then I stopped the recording and headed home, feeling rather pleased with myself. I figured that since I hadn't bought the car or the house this time around, I would surely be safe. But I never expected that I had barely taken a sip of hot water back at my house before someone started pounding violently on my door. I opened it to find the same realtor and dealership manager from my past life standing there, their faces contorted with rage. "Anna, you damned scammer!" You take our products and then refuse to pay? Give us our money. We have never seen such a disgusting customer. It's bad enough that you didn't pay, but you had to insult us with hell money on top of it. You're going to give us an explanation today, or we're not leaving. I was completely baffled. I hadn't gone to buy a car or a house, so how did these two men still end up at my front door? Was my house haunted? I threw my hands up in a gesture of surrender. You must have the wrong person. I didn't buy a car or a house. I haven't even stepped foot inside your stores, so how could I have possibly paid you with hell money? My words only seemed to send the realtor and the manager into an even greater rage. The realtor pulled out his phone. Who said you didn't buy a house? The call logs are right here. Isn't this your phone number? I leaned in for a closer look. It really was my number. But that didn't prove I had actually purchased a house. I tried to explain my line of thinking to them. Before the realtor could argue, the dealership manager sneered. Anna, I guess you're one of those people who needs to see something to believe it. Mike, Steve, bring out the money Anna paid with at the dealership today. Let everyone see for themselves if she paid in real dollars or hell money. Since my house was located right on the street, the commotion had drawn a crowd of curious onlookers. They all craned their necks, eager to see what was happening, as the employees from both stores carried over duffel bag after duffel bag. I held my breath, my eyes glued to the unfolding scene. The next moment, as the bags were opened, countless bills printed with the Bank of Heaven and Hell logo fluttered out into the air. Oh my God, it really is hell money! What terrible luck! Someone shouted. I just came to see what was going on and got hit with all this bad juju. Ugh, I need to go wash this bad luck off me. The onlookers screamed and backed away, leaving a large empty space in the middle of the street. I stood in my doorway, flanked by the two stores' menacing employees, with fake money scattering on the ground around me. For a moment, the crowd erupted in murmurs. Anna has lived on this street for years. She always seemed like such an honest woman. How could she do something so shameless? Another voice whispered. You can't judge a book by its cover. Some people look decent on the outside, but they're rotten to the core. Hearing the crowd on their side, the dealership manager and the realtor looked at me with smug arrogance. Anna, all this fake money is right here in front of you. What else could you possibly say to defend yourself? I let out a sigh. What was meant to be was meant to be. Gentlemen, you keep saying that I'm the one who paid with this money. Do you have any proof? To my surprise, they actually did. Hearing my question, the realtor and the manager's faces turned red, as if they had been deeply wronged. Anna, you're disgusting. Do you think we're as shameless as you are? Of course we came prepared with proof that you didn't pay. Everyone, take a look. See if these bills have Anna's name written on them. The crowd gasped and rushed forward, bending down to pick up the scattered paper money. A few seconds later, they started chattering again. It's true. It has Anna's name on it. Every single bill, one neighbor exclaimed. Is there something wrong with this Anna woman? Not only does she pay with hell money, but she writes her own name on it just to make sure everyone knows it was her. I still tried to reason with them. Gentlemen, just because my name is on the money doesn't prove that I'm the one who bought anything from you. The realtor's eyes widened. What are you saying? You're just going to deny it to the very end? Seeing that he was refusing to communicate, I sighed and pulled out the video I had recorded earlier. Look, it's not that I'm denying it, it's that I have proof. Because I never kept the $100 million lottery prize for myself. I gave it to a homeless man. As I said this, the surrounding onlookers stared at me with wide, disbelieving eyes. What? She gave the prize to a homeless man? That's $100 million. Even after taxes, it's $80 million. Someone in the crowd shouted. That has to be a lie. I've never seen that much money in my entire life. Anna is just a regular person like me. Could she really just give it all away, especially to some dirty beggar? Hearing the crowd's doubts, I quickly played the video of me giving the check to the man. It really wasn't me, I said, holding my phone up high so everyone could see the screen clearly. After the video finished playing, the onlookers looked at me with suspicion. Okay, so Anna gave the check away, but she could have just taken it back after she stopped recording, one person speculated. Yeah, who knows if she took it back or not, another agreed. Hearing these doubts, the dealership owner and the realtor sneered. Your proof doesn't prove a single thing. But the security cameras in our stores clearly show you paying with several bags of hell money. The crowd surged forward to watch the footage on their phones. I stared in shock, because on that security footage, the person slapping down the money and handing over several duffel bags was unmistakably me. At that moment, I genuinely thought I was seeing a ghost. Seeing that I had nothing left to say, the realtor and the manager looked at me triumphantly. Anna, we suggest you pay up now. Otherwise, we're calling the police and you'll rot in jail. The crowd chimed in. Yeah, they should arrest a lowlife like her, teach her a lesson. The accusations grew louder and more intense. Just then, my husband and my best friend appeared, as if on cue. After getting the gist of the situation, my husband looked at me with the exact same disappointed expression as he had in my last life. Anna, I know you've been poor and you're always trying to save money. I can understand that, but you can't buy millions of dollars worth of things and not pay for them, let alone use hell money to insult people. This is just too much. I can't have a wife like you. I want a divorce. My best friend added with tears welling up in her eyes. Anna, how could you become so materialistic? You won the lottery, you're rich now, but you refuse to pay, leaving these innocent employees to take the fall for you. Anna, I don't even know you anymore. You feel like a complete stranger. My husband and my best friend went back and forth, and in just a few sentences, as the people who were supposed to be closest to me, they had successfully painted me as a deadbeat who refused to pay for her purchases. One was my husband, the other my best friend. Their wickedness made them feel like strangers to me. The commotion had gotten so big that a police officer emerged from the crowd. The moment the dealership owner, the realtor, my husband, and my best friend saw the officer, they all cried out, Officer, you're just in time. Arrest this scumbag who pays for things with hell money. But the officer, hearing their words, didn't do as they asked. Instead, he pulled out his handcuffs and cuffed the dealership owner, the realtor, my husband, and my best friend right there on the spot. Officer, what are you doing? You're supposed to arrest Anna. You've got the wrong people. The four of them looked completely bewildered. The officer said calmly, I haven't made a mistake. Someone called in a report, and I've already gotten to the bottom of this. If you know what's going on, why aren't you arresting Anna? Why are you arresting us? They demanded. What time did Anna come to your stores to buy things? The officer asked, ignoring their frantic question. 9 a.m., said the realtor. 11 a.m., said the dealership owner, both answering in unison. The officer gave a mysterious smile. That's right, because at 9 a.m. and 11 a.m., Anna was with me. At that, a young couple and a terrified-looking child emerged from the crowd. They immediately knelt before me. Miss Anna, thank you so much. If it weren't for you, my child would have drowned today. Seeing the young couple and their child bowing to me, the dealership owner, the realtor, my husband, and my best friend were even more confused. What on earth was going on? Seeing their confusion, the officer finally explained. At 9 a.m. this morning, I was patrolling by the city canal when this child fell in. I was about to attempt a rescue, but Miss Anna here beat me to it. She bravely dove into the canal without a second thought for her own safety and saved the child. The whole ordeal took 2 hours. If it weren't for Miss Anna, a young life would have been lost today. The crowd's eyes widened, unsure how the story had taken such a dramatic turn. Someone boldly asked, Officer, are you saying Anna is the hero who saved this child's life? The officer nodded. Summer is peak season for children falling into the water. The railing along that part of the canal is old and in disrepair. This little boy was curious and got too close to the water, and he slipped and fell in. I'm not a strong swimmer. Even if I had jumped in, I'm not sure I could have saved him. We have Miss Anna to thank. After she rescued the boy, I took them both back to the station and contacted the boy's parents to come pick him up. I just gave Miss Anna a ride home. My patrol car is parked at the end of the street. Everyone quickly looked in the direction he pointed, and sure enough, there was a police car parked there. The officer added, Miss Anna had invited me in for a cup of hot water, but I got a call from the boy's parents. They had a plaque rush to be made for her. So I waited at the end of the street for the family to arrive, which is why I didn't come over with Miss Anna right away. I never imagined so much could happen in just 20 minutes, that Miss Anna would be accused of being a deadbeat who doesn't pay for her purchases. After the officer's explanation, the crowd's expressions shifted from doubt and disdain to respect and shame. I can't believe Anna is such a good person. We totally misjudged her, one neighbor said. That canal has a strong current. What kind of bad person would risk their own life to jump in and save a child? There has to be a misunderstanding, another added. Yeah, look, Anna's clothes are still soaking wet. She hasn't even had a chance to change since she got home. With the officer's testimony, everyone was now convinced that I had indeed given the check to the homeless man and not taken it back. After all, the officer had said I was with them the entire time since saving the child, and he had even driven me home in his patrol car. I had no time to act alone. Now the crowd wasn't just praising me for my bravery. They were calling me a great philanthropist who saw money as nothing more than dirt. If it were me, I could never give a winning lottery ticket to a beggar. That's $100 million. It's too much. I could never part with it, someone confessed. I couldn't either. Anna's character is truly noble. We really misjudged her. I believe her now. Anna is not a bad person. She would never refuse to pay for something she bought. The crowd's chatter quickly settled the matter. They were all convinced I could do no wrong. I let out a long sigh of relief. Because of my memories from my past life, I knew a child would fall into the canal that day. That's why, after giving the check to the beggar, I immediately ran to the canal to save him. Thank God I did, or I would have been framed with no way to clear my name. On the other side, unlike the praise from the crowd, the dealership manager and the realtor looked furious. Their faces were beet red. Feeling everyone's eyes on them, the realtor's expression grew awkward. So what if you saved someone and gave your money to a beggar? That doesn't prove you weren't the one who came to our stores. Hearing him, the dealership manager stood up straighter. That's right. You came to our dealership, ordered a Rolls-Royce, and then paid with a pile of hell money to insult us. We have it all on video. Anna, you can't just use the fact that you saved someone as an excuse to not pay for what you bought. The manager and the realtor went back and forth, ignoring all logic, determined to pin the crime of paying with hell money on me. My husband's eyes darted around, and then he stepped forward. I can prove it. Anna was going to buy a house and a car. This morning, when I told her to go cash the ticket, she was excitedly planning with me to buy a huge mansion and a sports car. My best friend Sarah nodded. Anna even called me to brag. She said she'd won $100 million and was going to be a tycoon. She was going to use the money to live it up. She then played a recording from her phone. A voice that sounded exactly like mine, but colder and crueler, filled the air. Ha 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 ha. There's no way I'm paying those two idiot managers. As long as I act like a big shot, they won't dare to count the money on the spot. I'll just drop the bags of hell money and leave. The car keys and the deed will be all mine. They can go ask the Bank of Heaven and Hell for their money. My best friend's voice sounded disapproving on the recording. Anna, how could you do that? The things you're buying are worth millions. The manager and the realtor are just working stiffs. You'll ruin them. My own scornful voice came through the recording. So what? I won $100 million. I'm a tycoon now. I'm not like those working-class losers. It's their own fault for not checking the cash properly at the store. Isn't there a saying, all sales are final once you leave the counter? It was their negligence that led to millions in losses for their stores. If they had been more careful, they would have found out I was paying with hell money. So, really, the problem is them, not me. Sarah's voice was full of anger, her words stuttering. Anna, you're being outrageous. I can't be friends with someone like you. Get out. I never want to see you again. My mocking laughter was the response. That's hilarious. No wonder you'll never be rich. You actually feel sorry for those two losers, didn't I just say? If they want their money, they can go ask the Bank of Heaven and Hell. How dare they ask me for it? They can go to hell. With that last sentence, the recording ended. The atmosphere was dead silent. The onlookers stared with wide, disbelieving eyes, their gazes shifting back and forth between me and my best friend Sarah. as if their entire worldview had been shattered. A dark, triumphant gleam flashed in my husband Mark's eyes. Anna, I never knew you were such a dark, antisocial person behind my back. Before you won the lottery, you were just a working class person yourself. How could you become so twisted after getting rich overnight? After he said that, he turned to the officer. Officer, aren't you a cop? Now there's even more evidence that Anna scammed them. You can let us go now and arrest her. The dealership manager and the realtor nodded eagerly. Yes, yes. Officer, you can't just protect Anna because you know her. She bought a luxury car and a mansion from our stores, then deliberately gave the lottery winnings to a beggar. Isn't that just a classic case of trying to get something for nothing? Officer, you're a cop. You can't have this kind of injustice happening right under your nose, can you? The two of them, afraid the officer wouldn't act, pressured him from both sides, trying to back him into a corner with his own professional duty. The officer glanced at me but said nothing. To the onlookers and to Mark's group, his silence looked like hesitation and tacit agreement. Mark pulled out a set of divorce papers he had prepared beforehand. Anna, here's a divorce agreement. Sign it, then we're done. Get out of my house. I took the papers and glanced at them, and the contents made me laugh with rage. The agreement stipulated, word for word, that I would leave the marriage with absolutely nothing. This was beyond ridiculous. Mark came from a poor, rural family. His parents were farmers with no money to buy a house in the city. My own parents were originally against our marriage. It was only because I repeatedly assured them that Mark was a good, honest man, tall and strong, and seemed reliable, that my parents reluctantly agreed. After we got married, Mark and I moved out of my family's home and into a street front house my parents had bought for me as a wedding gift. Although it was an old house, the entire area was scheduled for redevelopment. According to the city's plan, demolition was set to begin in the latter half of the year. Every homeowner in the area would receive 2 brand new apartments and a compensation package of several $1,000,000. In my past life, I had just told Mark this good news when I won the lottery. It felt like when it rains, it pours. Good things just kept coming one after another. I was overjoyed. I thought fate was finally smiling on us, that we were finally going to have a good life. But I never expected that my happiness was premature. Because the redevelopment would bring several million in cash and 2 new apartments, I thought Mark's point about relatives asking for money made sense. So I decided to use the $100 million from the lottery to buy a mansion and a nice car. That way, we wouldn't have a lot of cash on hand, and if we kept quiet about the redevelopment, Mark's freeloading rural relatives wouldn't come flocking. So I made the decision: buy everything new. We would trade our house for a big mansion in the city, and our car for the Rolls-Royce Mark had always dreamed of. After those 2 purchases, the $80 million after-tax winnings would be mostly gone. As for my parents, I had a plan for them too. The mansion was a 3-story villa. Mark and I would live on the 3rd floor. My parents, being older and having mobility issues, would live on the 1st floor. The 2nd floor would be a shared family room. This way, both families could eat together, but have their own private space, avoiding any awkwardness. If there was any money left over, we'd use it for a family vacation to see the country. I had it all planned out perfectly, but my plans were no match for reality. In my last life, after I made the payments, before I could even call my parents to share the good news, the dealership manager and the realtor rushed in and stabbed me to death without another word. As my thoughts returned to the present, I caught a glimpse of Mark and Sarah exchanging a look. A wave of nausea washed over me. What a pair of scheming snakes. I had helped both of them so much. One was my best friend, the other my husband, and they had been hooking up behind my back and plotting my death. Fine. This time, I'd like to see who comes out on top. Seeing the officer standing still, Mark couldn't help but press him. Officer, the evidence is solid. What are you waiting for? Let us go and arrest this horrible woman. The dealership manager and the realtor crossed their arms, looking at me. Anna, if you give us the money you owe us now, we can let this slide. But if you keep denying you bought the mansion and the Rolls-Royce, you'll have to take it up with the police. The onlookers were completely lost, and without knowing the full story, they fell silent, watching how things would unfold. At the same time, Mark sneered. Anna, just sign the divorce papers. You're going to jail anyway. The house is useless in your name. You might as well give it to me. As for your parents, I'll look after them, for old time's sake. I was about to vomit from his phony act. Seeing that they had exposed themselves enough, I dropped the act too. I pulled up the public notice about our neighborhood's redevelopment and showed it to the crowd. Everyone, take a look. The reason Mark is in such a hurry to divorce me is because my house is about to be redeveloped. He wants my compensation. And there's one more crucial thing. If I was carrying around that many duffel bags of cash, the street cameras would have definitely caught me, right? If you think the video on my phone isn't proof, then let's go to the Department of Transportation and pull the surveillance footage from the street cameras. We can see if I ever appeared on the road to the dealership or the sales office. My argument was logical and well-reasoned. The onlookers all nodded. That's right. They both have videos as evidence, and they're sticking to their stories. Since that's the case, let's put their evidence aside and look for a third-party source. The DOT's cameras are official. There's no way those can be faked. Let's go look at those. Yeah, let's go right now. This drama, with its constant twists and turns, had the crowd buzzing with excitement. They were all fired up, ready to go with me to the DOT to check the footage. The officer offered to file an application for me so the whole thing could be settled and a clear verdict reached by noon. I nodded at him gratefully, then turned to look at Mark and Sarah. I saw their eyes were wide with panic, their clothes soaked with sweat. Mark stammered, Anna, it's just a small misunderstanding. Do you really have to go to the DOT? And get the officer to file an application? Isn't that a waste of police resources? Sarah added nervously, Yeah, there's no need for that, right? Anna, if this gets blown out of proportion, it'll ruin your reputation. Even strangers will know you got into trouble with the authorities for not paying for things. The dealership manager and the realtor were also sweating bullets. The realtor's eyes darted around. You know what? Forget it. I'll just take the loss on this one. You haven't moved into the house anyway, so let's just pretend you never came to buy it. The dealership manager added, Yeah, I just remembered we never gave you the car keys. So the transaction was never completed. You can't be accused of not paying. Let's just drop it. Before I could say anything, the parents of the boy I rescued, who had been standing by, spoke up for me. The mom was a fierce defender. She let them have it with a verbal lashing. So you get to say whatever you want, is that it? From the very beginning, you were all accusing Miss Anna of not paying, of insulting you with hell money. You claimed you were the victims, that your jobs were on the line. If the keys were never handed over and the house wasn't transferred, then the deal was never done, right? So what were you so worked up about? Besides, weren't you the one saying Miss Anna was a shameless deadbeat? Well, this is perfect. Let's take it to the authorities and let them make a fair judgment. The realtor wasn't happy. I already said let's drop it. Why do you have to be so relentless? The dealership manager wanted to leave. What a waste of time. We never should have come here. As he spoke, I caught a sharp glimpse of the realtor and the manager's eyes darting towards Sarah and Mark. Now they weren't going anywhere, because I was starting to suspect the four of them were all connected. I immediately crouched on the ground and started wailing. I can't go on. I've been falsely accused, and now they won't even let me clear my name. I don't want to live anymore. Officer, don't stop me. Just let me die. They're trying to drive my parents and me to our graves. After I'm dead, I beg you to post this story online. This dealership and real estate agency are trying to kill an innocent customer. I deliberately made a huge scene, making it as dramatic as possible. The bigger the scene, the more onlookers would gather. The crowd became a chaotic mob, surrounding the manager and the realtor, refusing to let them leave. The officer also took out his phone and made a call. Yes, sir. I have a case here that requires the cooperation of the Department of Transportation to pull surveillance footage. The amount involved is around $70 to $80 million. The nature of the case is extremely serious. We may need to request SWAT team backup. The officer's words were cut short by two loud wails. It was the realtor and the manager. They were drenched in sweat, their legs had gone weak, and they just gave up. I'm not acting anymore. We're done with this charade, they shouted. They turned and glared at Sarah. When you hired us, you said this was just a walkthrough. You never said there would be SWAT teams involved. Now it was Sarah's turn to be stunned. With that, the realtor and the manager tried to run, but the officer, who was prepared, tripped them with a swift kick. The manager, sweat pouring down his face, pleaded, "Don't hit me, don't arrest me, I'll tell you everything. I was just hired to act." The realtor, terrified of being arrested after the manager confessed, spilled everything in one go. It turned out that the realtor and the manager were Sarah's cousins. The surveillance video was something they had created beforehand using AI. To clear his own name, the realtor even admitted they had used AI face-swapping technology. The person who paid with hell money was actually Sarah, but we used a deep fake, so the final video showed Anna's face. "I'm telling the truth. If you don't believe me, look. The woman's nails in the video, aren't they exactly the same as Sarah's?" Everyone's gaze instantly shot to Sarah. They saw her trying to hide her hands behind her back. I lunged forward and grabbed her hand. Sure enough, I saw her manicure complete with sparkling rhinestones. The gems on her nails glittered in the sunlight, clear for everyone to see. And with that, the truth was out. The officer pulled out his handcuffs to arrest Sarah. Sarah panicked and looked hatefully at the realtor and the manager. "How could you betray me? We had a deal." The realtor spat disdainfully. "You said you'd give us $5 million each after this was over, but you never mentioned the police would be involved. Besides, the lottery prize was $80 million. You were going to give us $10 million and keep $70 million for yourself. Who do you think you're fooling, throwing us scraps like that?" The manager shook his head. "High risk, low reward. Not even a dog would take that deal." Sarah had no choice but to turn to Mark for help, but he wouldn't even look at her. He was too busy trying to suck up to me. "Anna, I was wrong about you before. You haven't signed the divorce papers, have you? Let's not get divorced. Just pretend I never said anything, okay?" Seeing the panic in his eyes, I wasn't buying it. I turned to the crowd. "Everyone, you all saw it. My husband and my best friend teamed up to frame me. If I hadn't been lucky, I'd be dead by now. Tell me, should I get this divorce? Should my husband get lost?" The response was a chorus of "divorce" and "get lost." Mark tried to plead his case, but Sarah, seeing he had abandoned her, turned on him viciously. "Mark, it was you who told me Anna's house was going to be redeveloped. And then she won the lottery. You said we could team up and make a huge score. It was all your idea. How do you get to walk away scot-free?" "Officer, I want to report Mark." And just like that, a pair of iron handcuffs was slapped onto Mark's wrists as well. As they were being led away, the officer pulled me aside. He took the check out of his pocket. I was stunned. "This is—" The officer smiled. "Your intention to give the money to the homeless man was good. But that man is in my jurisdiction, and I know he has a mental illness. He wouldn't have known what to do with the money. So before I left, I traded him a rotisserie chicken for the check." The man was thrilled. "As for this check, it's being returned to its rightful owner. You should hold on to it." To be honest, when I handed over the check, I had hesitated for a long time. I was incredibly reluctant to part with that money. It was $80 million. I had never seen so much money in my life. But thinking about what happened in my past life, I had to grit my teeth and give it away. I thought that by changing someone else's fate, I was at least doing a good deed. I never expected the check to come back to me untouched. I was so moved I could only stammer my thanks to the officer. "Thank you, officer. You're a truly good person." He just smiled and nodded at me. "It's nothing. Just serving the people." With that, he cut the pleasantries short and, along with the other officers who had arrived, escorted the four of them into the patrol car. I just smiled and waved at him, grateful that he had given me a new life. Later, I really did buy a big mansion. I found the homeless man and brought him to live with us. It turned out he was a very sweet old man who had fallen on hard times. In his more lucid moments, he would hold my hand and my parents' hands and tell us stories from his youth. And the officer became a regular visitor at our house, often showing up with bags of groceries to see the old man and my parents. And then, of course, we got married. This time I had a very good life.